This video is made possible by my patrons on Patreon. Hello everyone, my name is Xiomaro and welcome back to Battlerite. So, I know it's been a while since I've talked about Battlerite, but I've had some info leaked to me about an absolutely huge upcoming patch for the game. And not only that, but I've also heard the patch is going to be dropping next week. Sneaky Stunlock. So this is what you've been doing on your Christmas break. So, let's give you a rundown of what's coming, and I guess let's start small. First off, in-game tournaments. Yep, you heard me correctly. The in-game tournament system is finally coming to Battlerite. This might not mean a full return of the BPL days, but the ability for small organizations to set up tournaments in-game will go a long way towards reviving the competitive scene. It also looks like there's going to be an official Stunlock Studios tournament to kickstart the new system, and this is where it gets even more exciting. I suppose it's a no-brainer, but all the pro teams from the last season of BPL have been invited to play in the inaugural Pro Cup for a moderately sized prize pool. And if that wasn't cool enough, they're also doing an Amateur Cup, which is open to everyone, and that also has a prize pool. So if you've ever fancied yourself as a pro player, get a team together quickly because this could be a big opportunity for you. Needless to say, I've always been a big proponent of the in-game tournament system, and I'm just so happy that it's finally being implemented, especially with such a cool event to kick it all off. Moving on, because there's actually a lot to cover here, new champions. It's been a while since we've had a solid champion release schedule, but it looks like things are going to be getting back on track in that regard pretty soon. Over the next 9 months, we're going to be getting not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 new champions. That's absolutely insane. I haven't seen much in the way of details, but they are strongly hinting at a feral druid style shapeshifter, which is right up my street, so I'm super excited to see how that turns out. So, by the sounds of things, this feral guy will be dropping when this patch goes live next week, and another champion will be going live every quarter from then onwards. But hold on before you get too excited, because I haven't even got to the best part yet, the Battlerite client merge. We'd heard rumours that one of the reasons the clients were separated in the first place was because of different backers and interested parties, and I guess that makes sense. But I think we'd be kidding ourselves if we didn't acknowledge that splitting Arena and Royale had an adverse effect on the player base for both games. I mean, there was a time back in November when the combined numbers of the two games were reaching 16k concurrent players at peak times, which is almost back to what it was a couple of months after the launch of Arena. The only problem was that was split between two games. It shouldn't be the case, but people really pay attention to Steam charts. 9,000 peak concurrent players doesn't sound nearly as good as 16,000, but that's what we were left with. And needless to say, it's been a slow downhill decline since then. Well, in an unprecedented move from Stunlock, and I'd imagine a lot of complicated negotiations internally, the Battlerite Royale and Arena clients are going to be merged starting next week. It might seem like a small thing, but bringing the two communities back together could have a huge net positive effect for both game modes. I think it's honestly humbling when a company can not only admit to its own mistakes, but actually act on it. And Stunlock deserve a lot of praise and support for making such a bold move. So finally, I've actually left this till last because it's the thing I'm most excited about: new game modes. And we're not talking about Bacco Egg Brawl here. We're talking about new, full-blown competitive game modes. And to go with the new game modes, there's going to be a bunch of new maps based on some of the assets from Battlerite Royale, which, as we all know, look really great. So, with the merging of the clients, it opens up the door to more than just Arena and Royale. Arena and Royale will continue to have their own separate ranking and matchmaking, but in addition to those modes, there will also be a competitive playlist that could land you in one of 3 new game modes. So, what are the new game modes, you ask? Well, first off, Capture the Flag. This is kind of a no-brainer. There was actually a Capture the Flag mode in Bloodline Champions, and in my opinion, it was a lot of fun. The maps were totally different to the Arena maps, and they involved jump pads and slightly more laney style map designs. Just like with the Arena, Capture the Flag will actually be 3v3, unlike Bloodline Champions 5v5, but the objective of the game is to capture the most flags in 10 minutes, or the first to capture 3 flags. I've been a big fan of Capture the Flag since the Quake 3 days, so I'm really excited excited to play Capture the Flag in Battlerite. So let's move on to the next new game mode, which is King of the Hill. If you've ever played Overwatch, you're probably imagining a middle capture point that you have to hold. Well, this is slightly different. Instead, there is an orb that spawns in the middle of the map, and each team has to fight to hold the orb. Your team gets a point for every second that they hold the orb, and the first team to 50 points wins. Or if you don't get to that within the allotted time, the team with the most points at the end of the time limit wins. It's not a totally unique idea, but I think it could create a really unique metagame. I'm wondering which champions will be the best for holding the orb. We don't know yet whether or not you'll be able to use mobility skills while holding the orb, but if you can, I can imagine Croak being an absolute pain to steal the orb from. Otherwise, someone like Bako or Rook could be a really great orb carrier. And finally, let's look at the other game mode that's being added. Domination. If you've played Call of Duty or a host of other games that have this game mode, you know exactly what this is. 3 capture points, your team gets points over time for each capture point held, and the first team to 100 points wins. Just like Capture the Flag, King of the Hill and Arena, this will be a 3v3 game mode, and honestly, I think this will be one of the most interesting modes for Arena players. The maps won't be quite as large as you're probably imagining, so rotating between the points will be relatively fast. So it's quite likely that Domination will boil down to some really interesting 1v1s, 2v2s and 3v3s, depending on what strategy each team decides to play. This is another one where I'd love to see how the meta pans out. I'd imagine good duelists like Pearl or Shifu might make great solo point holders, or maybe the mode will favor team fights where the whole team just goes from point to point trying to catch one of the enemy team off guard and turn it into a 3v2. So, as you can probably guess, all 3 of the new game modes have a respawn system. It's not like Arena or Royale where you're eliminated from the game once you're killed. Honestly, if you told me this was where Battlerite was heading before all the Battlerite Royale stuff, I probably wouldn't have loved the idea of all these new game modes. But considering everything that's happened over the last year, I think this could be exactly what Battlerite needs. New champions, a merged client, new game modes, and to top it all off, in-game frickin' tournaments? All those people talking about Battlerite's supposed lack of depth ought to put a sock in it now. I probably shouldn't do this, but I'll leave a link to the leaked patch notes down in the video description. Go have a read, see if there's anything important I've missed, and let me know what you think of all of this down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please feel free to subscribe for more gaming guides, news, and discussion. And don't forget to check out the links below to Patreon, Discord, and Twitch. Until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.